Hello everyone, happy Friday. I see all of you guys in the live chat, so thank you so much for joining me for today's live. It's been a while since we've gone live together, and that's because last week I was sick and kind of leading into this week as well. It wasn't the best time, I know it's going around right now, so if any of you guys are sick, I'll be thinking of you. Hopefully you get better soon. But I do have to say, some good things came out of being sick. Having a nice break from going live, I was able to sit down and start designing products. I've already designed almost halfway through next year, 2026 already, which is awesome. So thankfully for you guys, we're definitely ahead for designs next year, and we've got some cute stuff coming. But today we have a brand new Christmas launch, which I cannot wait to share with you. This Christmas launch is small but mighty. We have 2 large stamp sets that come out, and honestly, these stamp sets are adorable. They're some of my favorite that we've ever designed for Christmas. But before we get into it, I do have to be completely honest because I feel like being transparent up front is very helpful for you guys to know. So this Christmas launch that's a little bit smaller was originally supposed to be part of a much larger Christmas launch altogether. Now things happen, especially when you're manufacturing products. Sometimes boats arrive a little bit later, but we want to make sure we're putting out the Christmas stuff as early as possible so that you guys get tons of time to create with it before Christmas actually happens. So these 2 stamps were ready, so we decided to launch them right away, but we're going to have kind of a slow trickle of Christmas launches throughout the next month. So you guys will be getting more Christmas stuff to even coordinate with these products. But I wanted to release them as soon as we can. So as soon as more stuff comes in, we'll be launching those as well. But I just wanted to make sure you guys get the Christmas stuff as soon as possible so you can start crafting with it. All right, let's get into it. So before we get into the actual Christmas products, I wanted to jump back into a stamp set that I think we released about 2 years ago. This one is called Big Hugs, and you can see it's well loved with lots of ink. This has a pug in it, this adorable little cat with stripes, and this really great panda image. And then tons of sentiments and other kind of pieces you can use along with it to theme these different animals as such. So they're really meant to look like huggers, but you can also put things in their hand for different celebrations, which I think is so much fun. So I loved this stamp set, and I know a lot of you guys did too. So we're bringing in the Christmas Hugs stamp set. This is a very similar kind of size for all of the images that are in it, but they're very Christmas themed, so you can use them on all of your holiday card making projects, which I absolutely love these. So you can see there is this large snowman image. Now we didn't cut the snowman off at the bottom because I wanted you to be able to either use this as a hugger and kind of put him in front of something, or use him on a hill as just a regular snowman. I've done snowmen in the past, but I've never done a snowman that's this large, so I really love this guy. He is so adorable, decked out in his little Christmas outfit. Of course, we have a little penguin that could be popping out, an adorable Santa image that's got really nice clean lines, and then this reindeer. This reindeer might be my favorite. He is so cute. They've all got their mouths wide open and they're ready to give a nice hug. But what's awesome about this is similar to the original hug stamp set, we wanted there to be images to go along with them that you can make them holding too. So we have a gift, a bell that you can make Santa ringing, a plate of cookies, and a candy cane. And then of course a little heart up there. And then we have different large sentiments that you can use along that are pretty much themed for each one of the images. So you have "You're flippin' awesome" for the penguin, "Sending warm hugs," "You melt my heart," "You're on the nice list," "You slayed this year," "Oh dear," and then you can put "Oh dear" kind of in front of anything, or like "Oh dear, Christmas is here," "Have a nice day," and then we have fa and la, so you can stamp fa la 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 if you want to. So lots of really great sentiments. Yes, I love their happy expressions like you guys are saying. This set is so adorable. And then let me show you too. Let me just show you, this is the size of an A2 size card. It's always great to see how they're gonna fit on there, so you can see they're really quite large. They're gonna be a nice focal point for the front of your card. So you really need one of these images and then a sentiment right beneath it, and you can finish things off really beautifully with that. But I love this stamp set. I hope you guys love it too. Again, it really matches well with the Big Hug stamp set that we've done in the past. Now there is a coordinating die set that you can get from Spellbinders to go along with this set. I highly recommend it. It's really nice for kind of getting into the detailed areas around these images that they have to cut them out really easily. And then you also have different dies to cut out all of the images that are in the set, as well as the little heart. There's no dies to cut out these sentiments, but they're really easy to do. They're just kind of a straight cut, so we didn't feel the need to include the dies for those. But these you can buy along with from Spellbinders. They're already come detabbed and all separated for you, so they're ready to go, so you can start crafting with it. So super excited about this set. And then I do also want to mention that some of the artwork, like this next stamp set, is licensed, which means we hire a talented designer to create the set, and we sort of curate it to create a stamp set for all of you guys. I love doing this because then we're able to get different styles in the sets, so you guys can get kind of a variety of images to play with. This one is called Ho Ho Ho, and the really fun part about this artwork is all of it is one-line images, okay? So that means that someone put down their pen and they drew out this whole image, not lifting their pen at all, and that's what gives you this really cool kind of sketched or doodled look for the stamp set, which I think is so fun and adorable. So we have the Santa inside of his sleigh, as well as the little reindeer up front. This one is such a great kind of focal point image for the card. Then we have that Santa image. I love this guy. He looks really cheerful, but again, that one-line image really just makes it so playful and kind of a whimsical image. Then we have these snowflakes, which are all three attached together. You can see this is really a great focal point, but it's also really great for creating backgrounds like we're gonna do today with this stamp set. And then we have these two really large trees. Again, super fun. There's ornaments all over them. They got little stars on top. And I just love that one-line look. It's so unique and it creates such a fun look for the images. Then we have some different sentiment to go along with it. So you have Santa Claus is coming to town. You're on the naughty list. Let it snow. Sleigh all the way. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas and glad tidings to you. So really great images and sentiments that are inside of this set. Let me pull out another card just so I can show you just how large these images are. So again, really great focal points. I like to create my images a little bit larger than a lot of other stamp sets on the market, mainly because I just want you to not be able to have to use the whole set in order to fill a card. Like really each one of these kind of tell its own story and are its own focal point. You could of course use them all together. Like we're gonna create some cards to create scenes and stuff with these today all together. But I also wanted to let you know, like these are very substantial by themselves, so you can really use them as focal points for a card, which is awesome. All right, then let's talk about this die set for this. This die set is definitely a must-have, especially for these images in particular. Something like those trees where you got so much detail, but then also like these snowflakes will actually cut right in between into those lines. So it won't just go around the outside edge. It'll go kind of in between too, which is so helpful. And like for the Santa image, you got it cutting out kind of in between all of the areas in the image to make sure there's not too much white space. So I really love that you have the dies along with it to cut out these images you wouldn't be able to just with the scissors. There's also dies for the sentiments in this set. Let's see, is there dies for every sentiment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there's dies for every single sentiment inside of this set. Sometimes we only do certain sentiments, but I'm gonna be honest with you. When it comes to die manufacturing, with these sentiments, if there's room inside of these areas, it doesn't cost much more for us to add these inside. So sometimes people ask like, why do you have sentiments in some sets and not others? That is why. Sometimes they fit really nicely inside of these and we're able to give it to you at a really great price, but we don't wanna put the price up too much. So if it costs too much to add the sentiments, we don't usually add them, but for this one, they fit inside really nicely. So we decided to give you all the sentiments, which is amazing because like this kind of scripty font, it'll cut right in between those, which is really great to give a nice finished effect. All right. And then let me jump into some card projects that I created with these, and then we'll go in and start crafting together. So here's one card project that we created. I used the bubbly stencil that just recently came out, which I think is such a great texture. It almost looks like burlap once it's all stenciled, but it really is just this great texture you can add into the background. So I stenciled that using a little bit of bee sting astro paste. And then I did the Santa Claus image on top. I stamped that down and watercolored it in using Stellar inks. And then what's fun about this is I actually like tapped on a little bit of that bee sting astro paste. And I also tapped on a little bit of Phoenix Feather Astro Paste to its beard. Phoenix Feather Astro Paste hasn't released yet. It's still an exclusive to the SBC Fest kit. So if you've gotten that, you'll have the Phoenix Feather Astro Paste you can play with. There's also Frostbite Astro Paste that's already out. So if you want to use that, you totally can. But the Phoenix Feather will be out probably within a month. So if you're looking forward to Phoenix Feather, that'll be out very soon. But that is what I added down to the Santa beard, and it gives a really great clear sparkle on top of that Santa Claus. How fun is that? All right. Then let's jump into the next card project, which we're going to be creating together in today's live. I wanted to show how to create this card especially because I think sometimes that one line set, that ho 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 stamp set, can be a little bit difficult to picture how you can use it. But I really want to show, like, even though it's a little bit abstract, you can still very much so color all these images in really easily. You can use them as kind of a background like I did with these trees. So there's really still a lot of ways to use it. You don't just need to stamp the image straight and center and emboss it or anything like that. You can really still use it inside of a scene and create some amazing cards using that ho 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 stamp set. So I used those trees from that stamp set, the Santa image, and then a couple of different stars in the background using that Phoenix Feather Astro Paste again. How fun is that? All right, and then last but not least, we have this one, which is from that Christmas Hug stamp set, but I also used the Ho 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 snowflakes in the background to create this background, and then I stamped down that snowman. I colored him in really easily, and then I put him right onto a hill and stamped down the sending warm hug sentiment. So that stamp set is so adorable to use as some really great focal points that are really great and substantial for your card projects. And I just love just how adorable that snowman is and all the images inside of that stamp set. So, so cute. All right, that's all I have for samples. I didn't create a ton of them because, like I said, I was sick. So I was pretty much in bed over there designing products all week. But I finally got the courage to get up and make some of these cards yesterday. And now we're going to create some cards together today. I don't have too much of a plan. Like I said, I wanted to create that card with the Santa flying over because I really wanted to show you how this is going to work super nicely with watercoloring and creating cards like that. So let's go in and start off by creating the background. So to do this, I'm going to go in with one of my Stark White card bases. We sell these in side folding and tap folding. And I'm just going to go in and fold this right down. It's already cut and scored for you. So all you need to do then is just go in, fold it right over, and then I grab a little bone folder and I'm just going to crease that right down. All right, so nice and scored for us. And then we're gonna go in and do some ink blending. So let's go in and blend this out. Now I'm gonna use my Simon Hurley blending brushes. These guys are all back in stock, so they're linked down below in case you wanna check them out. And also all the products that I'm using in today's video, even the new ones, are linked down below so you guys can check them out. But these are back in stock, so if you've been waiting to get your hands on these ink blending brushes, you can grab them right now, which is awesome. They are some of my favorite brushes to be able to do blending with. So I have about 12 for different color families, and then I use like all of the pinks, light pinks and dark pinks, all on one blending brush. So I'm gonna go in here and start off with my light blue blending brush, and I'm gonna go in with a little bit of Stellar ink in the color Clear Skies. And I'm going to just lightly tap it into here and just tap off onto my glass mat to get rid of any excess ink. I just want a really light blend across this background. Nothing too dark with this color. So just light taps across the surface and then you can blend right on. And I love these brushes. They're really easy to hold. They've got a custom handle and then it's got nice flat bristles. And I found that the flat bristles make it really easy to blend and not get any harsh marks onto your surface. Of course, the Stark White cardstock also helps with that because that is really great at getting a nice smooth and solid blend. But the ink blending tool really makes a large difference as well. And I also love these Stellar inks too, because just light taps and you get a ton of ink onto the surface. And I saw a question earlier about when we're releasing more colors of Stellar ink, and I can tell you that in about a month, in October, we're going to be releasing some more colors, so you can get excited about that for sure. So if you've been loving the Stellar inks, I know I've gotten a lot of great feedback from you guys. There will be new colors coming pretty soon, so definitely be on the lookout for those. All right, then let's jump in And we're gonna go in with a little bit of Midnight Snack because I want to add a little bit of darker color to the top edge of the card. Almost looks like it's kind of a sunset then, where it's lighter at the bottom and darker at the top. So I'm gonna go in and again, really lightly tap into this and tap off some of the excess. And then I'll go in right at the edge and bring some of this Midnight Snack color in. And I'm going very light-handed. That's one thing that I love about these brushes, is you're able to really control how much color you add. The lighter the pressure that you apply, the less color, of course, you're gonna get on the surface. All right, this is looking gorgeous. I love this soft blend, and you guys can just see, like, these blending brushes really speak for themselves with just how smoothly this color goes down. There's no harsh marks, there's no kind of difficulty blending, so I really love it for that. And then if you want to kind of make the blend even a little bit smoother, I mean, it's looking great so far, but we can go back in with Clear Skies if needed, and you can tap into here and then blend right onto the surface. All right, and we're just making a really smooth, beautifully blended background. I just want a little bit more blue up top here, make it a little bit darker. All right, that's awesome. That looks great. And then let's go in and we're going to react this with a little bit of water. So I'm gonna go in with just a little bit of water, and my Simon Hurley and Stellar inks react with water beautifully. So we can just spray on a little tiny bit of water. That's going to start reacting then. And then we can grab a little bit of paper towel and blot it off. Awesome. Hannah just joined. She said she was a little bit late, but what was the name of the Christmas Hugs? So Christmas Hugs is that is the name of that stamp set, and then they all released today, so they're available right now for purchase, which is awesome. Okay, so then let's go in and show you guys how to create that kind of tree line at the bottom of the card, and this is really easy to do. So for this, I'm just using a piece of green colored cardstock. And then I'm going to go in with the Ho 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 stamp set, and I'm going to use those trees at the bottom. So I'm going to lift these right off. And then we're going to add these down to an acrylic block so we can do our stamping. Okay, perfect. And then let's go in with our Stellar inks to do the stamping. These Stellar inks just stamp so beautifully. So if you guys have some Stellar inks, you know, they just stamp so gorgeous. So I'm using the 4 color. And I'm going to go in here, and you just want to really lightly tap onto the surface whenever you're using Stellar inks. They've got that nice squishy foam pad that gives off a lot of ink, so you don't want to like press too hard into there, otherwise you're going to get ink everywhere. But just light taps gives such a great coverage. And then we'll go in and stamp it right down. All right, give it some good pressure, and then we can lift it off, and you can see just how beautifully that image stamps out. I am obsessed with how that looks. So check that out. I just love all the detail in there. And again, you could stamp this with like black ink or white heat embossing and do some coloring, but I really love that just outlined look that this gives with the one-line images. So there's really a lot of ways to use these one-line images. All right, then I'm gonna go in and just use the coordinated dies, and this is why it's so helpful, because especially if you want to create like backgrounds where you're using lots of these trees, it's nice to have the dies to really easily cut them out. And then I'll go in with a little bit of mint tape, if I can find it. We're actually gonna just open one, because I don't know where my last roll went. So we're gonna grab a little bit more mint tape here. I got, I'm pretty locked and loaded with mint tape though, because I use it so often. So we're gonna go into here and take a little bit of mint tape, and I love this stuff because it doesn't rip your images even when it goes through a die cutting machine with all that pressure, so that's why I love it so much. And we'll just go in and line this up with an even border all the way around, and then go in and tape it right down. Yes, and that's a great idea, to go in with like a little bit of astro or lunar paste and kind of fill in some of those little ornaments with some of that paste. I think that would be awesome. Then we're gonna go in with our Platinum 6 die cutting machine, and I'm going to go right into here and die cut this out. Perfect. Run this right through, and we'll stare at each other awkwardly as we die cut it out. I was actually supposed to have a prop today, but I definitely forgot it. That's the sick brain here. I'm forgetting things left and right. All right. So we're gonna pop this guy out. And there we go. You can see just how beautifully that cut out. It's really easy to do with that die, and it gives it a really nice edge. So I did plan in advance just because I knew that I wanted quite a few of these. So I've got quite a few of these trees stamped and cut out, which is really great. So we're gonna add these down to our card now. So to do that, I'm gonna bring in this other card to just see kind of how far up I want things. But it's really quite easy to do. All you need to do is add your tree down. And actually, wait, before we do this, I did do one more thing to these that I want to show you guys, because I think that it helps really bring them to life. You guys know that I love a little bit of dimension. So what I did before I added these down is I went in with a little bit more 4 ink, and I just went in with my green blending tool, and I'm just going to add a little bit of ink to the bottom of these. It was just a little detail that I added, but I feel like it really changed how these trees looked. It gives them a little bit of shading and depth from the bottom of them, and I think it really brings them to life a lot more. So that is what I did here, and it's really easy to do, to just have these on green cardstock and not have to color them in then, but you still get all the amazing stamped detail of that one-line image, which I love about these. They're just so elegant looking. So we're gonna go in, blend that out, and then one more. And this just blends so smooth and seamlessly with that stellar ink. I love it. All right. Then we're gonna go in, and now we can add these down onto our card really easily. So we're gonna go in and start off by just using a little bit of tape runner. And that's all I use to adhere these guys down. And we're just going to add these right at the bottom there. So I'm gonna add it right about here on the card. I think that looks good. And then we're gonna add the trees all the way around it too. So we're gonna just go in with a couple more of these guys. And we'll add this tree over here, kind of up a little further, overlapping it. And then we're gonna add another grouping of trees. So this is what I was talking about too. Like, I think that on the stamp set itself, you really see those images and you're like, okay, well, I have to just use them as focal points. But we really designed them to scale so that they look like these trees can be in the front and like Santa can be flying over them. So I wanted to really show you how to use this set, because I feel like it's not really as easy to see how to use it inside the packaging, although it is gorgeous, but like you can really still use it for trees and for backgrounds and to create scenes with, which I think is really fun. So then all you're gonna do is go in here and trim off any of the excess from the bottom and sides. I like these large shears from Spellbinders for just trimming off some of the excess. They cut really nicely. And then we'll go on this side and trim that finally down. All right, and then we've got like these extra trees. And so what I did with these guys is just go back in and layer them up. So we can go in and trim this out. And I'm just gonna layer this guy up right here. Right there. And then we can layer this guy up right here. And so that just adds another layer of trees in there and makes it even more 3D, like we're creating a nice scene down there. I love how that looks. Okay, so we'll trim off any of the excess then. I think this needs just a little bit more tape runner. Perfect. That looks great. And if you want to, you could even throw one more in. Let's do it. Let's throw one more in right here. Right at the bottom. Awesome. We'll go in, trim that one last one off. Okay, so that is how this background looks once you're all complete. So you can really create a nice little forest of these trees. And then if you want to, again, because we cut off some of that shading, you can always go back in and add a little bit more dimension using that 4 and my Simon Hurley blending brush right at the bottom. And how fun is that? I love it. It's creating such a beautiful background. And then to build things up even more, I went in and there's this Starry Night stencil set that I created with Spellbinders. I love this stencil set. It's a layering stencil that goes along with an embossing folder, which is really great. But I actually used this stencil set and I just laid it over top of this design. I love this stencil. I've been using this for a lot of different things like this. And you can use any layer that you want to. And what I'm gonna do is go in and use a little bit of that Phoenix Feather Astro Paste. So again, this is coming out soon. It's not out right now. You can use whatever color Astro Paste you want to, but I really want these stars to just kind of blend in with the background nicely. So I'm going in with Phoenix Feather to do that. And I'm just gonna bring in a little palette knife and we'll go right in here and just stencil these guys in. So I encourage you with these Christmas products, I know that it's just these two stamp sets for now. Like I said, there will be other stuff coming soon, but like I encourage you to bring it out with all of your other stuff you've had from the past, even if it's not Christmassy, because there's things like stars or background builders that'll be really helpful to kind of create a scene with some of these images. And I think this just really helps complete it and add so much great texture to the background. So if you don't have this Starry Night stencil embossing folder set, I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorites because it's super versatile, but I also just find myself using and putting these stars everywhere in a ton of different cards, in like birthday cards, but even for like nighttime skies, this is amazing. So we'll set this off to the side to let it dry. These stars are gonna turn clear and kind of iridescent, which is gonna be beautiful. I'm gonna go in here then and just clean everything off. So whenever you're using Astro Paste or Lunar Paste or Solar Paste, you want to make sure to clean your stencils and tools right away. So I'm gonna go in here and just bring in a little bit of paper towel, spray this down, and just wipe off any of that excess glitter right away from the stencil to clean it off really nicely. And we'll just wipe any of that glitter off. Once that glitter dries, it's not gonna come off, so you wanna make sure to clean it right away, but that's a good thing because then it won't come off on your project. Whenever I put glitter paste onto a project, I don't want it to come off on the recipient's hands later on. So that's one thing I love about Astro Paste is once it's dry, it's put. So even if you rub it or are touching the glitter, it's not gonna come off on your hands once it's all dry, which is amazing. Okay. So now let's go in and talk about the focal point image. So for the focal point, we're gonna go in with this Santa that's flying in the sky. So we're gonna pull this right out. I'm going to stamp it down, and this time we're gonna use some of my Simon Hurley watercolor cardstock. So my watercolor cardstock is really great for coloring, of course. Some people ask when you should switch over to watercolor cardstock from stark white cardstock, because stark white cardstock still handles water well. It's really if you're just gonna throw tons and tons of water at it. That's when I would really recommend this. The watercolor cardstock is great. It's got kind of this velvety feel to it. One of the sides is a little bit slightly more textured, and one of it is a little bit smoother. So flip to the smoother side if you're going to do any stamping on it. And we're going to grab our acrylic block, and then we will stamp this down using a little bit of VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. Now, if I wasn't watercoloring this image, I would stamp it down using my Black Widow Stellar ink, but Stellar ink is reactive with water. So because we're adding water down, we're not using the Stellar ink. We're gonna use a waterproof ink, and I'm also going to heat emboss this to set it into place. So I like VersaFine because it takes longer to dry. It's a pigment ink, so it's really great for heat embossing too. All right, so we'll stamp that right down. Check out how gorgeous that stamps. I love that one line image. You get so much detail in there. And then we'll go in and we're also going to stamp down the sentiment. So let me just stamp that down right away before we continue moving on. And I'm just gonna use the Santa Claus is coming to town because I think that's an adorable sentiment for this image. And we'll stamp that right down using a little bit of VersaFine Clair again. Okay, ink that up, and we'll stamp it down. We'll stamp it onto the watercolor cardstock just so it matches perfectly. the watercolor cardstock was made to match the stark white pretty well, so it does a pretty decent job at matching, which is great. Okay, then we're gonna go in with our clear heat embossing powder, and I'm just going to throw over a layer of embossing powder right over the top. This is going to seal that black ink in, and it's also going to create kind of like bumpers, like for bowling, where it kind of keeps your ball inside of the lines. That's what this is going to kind of do. It's going to keep your ink inside of the lines. So if you struggle with things kind of bleeding outside of the lines, try doing heat embossing on your image beforehand, and that can be really helpful to kind of create a raised surface and make it easy for you to not go outside of the lines. So I'm going to heat set this really quickly, and then we'll be ready to color. All right, so when you're heat embossing, you just want to heat it really until it starts to turn clear, and then you want to kind of move your heat tool. If you keep holding it in one place for too long, it'll kind of sink into your cardstock and not give you the embossed look that you want. So make sure that when you're heat embossing, you kind of stop heating right when it turns clear. All right, so I'm going to cut those apart, and now let's do some watercoloring. So I love these Stellar inks for watercoloring, because with Stellar ink, all you need to do now is just really lightly tap it onto your craft mat or glass surface, and then you've got a ton of color, and it gives off like so much color that's really vibrant. So we're gonna go in here with several of our ink pads and start adding some colors down. I'm gonna add in a little bit. So that was 4 Bee Sting. We're using a little bit of Woof, Shady, and then we'll add down some Weeping Willow, which is this great brown color. I love that color. And then a little bit of Cookie Dough. And let's also add down just a tiny bit of Clear Skies, and then we should be good. All right. Now I'm gonna add down a little bit of water to my craft sheet. The reason why I added down to the craft sheet instead of a bucket of water is because I'm gonna spill that water everywhere. So at least when it's on my craft sheet, I know I'm not gonna ruin everything in my craft room. So then we'll go in, and I'm just going to start off. And to start my watercoloring, I always love to go in with just some plain water first and add it down to the surface. This is just something that I do. I just find watercolor is a little bit different than ink is. Ink likes to just sink right into the surface, even though it is kind of like a watercolor, but it likes to sink right in. So by adding the water down first, it's gonna let the ink kind of sit on the surface and blend more, give you a smoother blend than if you just added it straight down into the watercolor cardstock. So we're gonna go in here and just watercolor this out. Now, when it comes to watercoloring these one-line images, you don't need to be too perfect. And you also don't need to like really analyze where the lines are. It's not really that deep, to be honest. And when it comes to these one-line images, they have kind of that sketchy look. So it really is nice because you don't have to be perfect with it. If you go outside of the lines, you just want to give it kind of a loose watercolor look. That's what I like to do, at least stylistically, with these kind of stamps. You, of course, could try to be perfect, but I like to just kind of play around and have fun when coloring these guys in, because it's not that serious. All right, and there really is no like actual line that you really need to follow with these being a one-line image, so that's what I like about it. Now, I like to also dip back into the super intense color and just add some shading and some depth. So we'll go in and add some depth around some of these lines, and that's gonna give us a really great dimension to the images. All right, and if you want to kind of blend that ink in, just go back in with your brush and a little bit of water and blend it together. That looks great. So there's those 2 reindeer colored in. Now for their antlers, we're gonna go in with a little bit of cookie dough and color those guys in. And again, not being too particular, kind of going outside of the lines here and there if you want to. And then we'll bring that little cookie dough color over to Santa as well. And then let's color Santa in. So for Santa, I'm gonna color his red suit in using a little bit of Bee Sting. We'll bring that over to the Santa image. Be careful around his beard. And again, this is where you're kind of just like really having fun, because it's like, okay, where does this line stop and start? I don't really worry about that too much. All of his kind of sleigh, I'm gonna color in with that same color red. So again, Not too big of a deal, kind of where everything is. I'm just gonna kind of guess, and this is kind of what I'm gonna all color red all across here. And again, going outside the lines a little bit doesn't really matter because it's like, well, where even is the line on this image, right? That's what I think is fun about these. They're more abstract, which I think is cool. And then we'll add some shading in around these lines. And then we'll go back in with a little bit of water and blend it together. Cool. I think that looks great. And then let's add a little bit of depth. So whenever I color in anything gray, like his beard or his hat, I'm coloring it in with a little bit of woof and really just lightly going in, not with too much of that color. And then for his boots and stuff, I'll go in using a little bit of shady, which is a darker gray. And same thing with the little blades on the sleigh. All right, and then we'll just add a little bit of green to some of his toys and the tree that's in the back here. And that should do it. This is looking great. And then we'll add a little bit of blue down back here to some of these gifts as well. And that is awesome. And so you can really tell that these are just super easy to color in. That watercolor cardstock, let me show you too, holds up really nicely. There's like a zero warping going on there. It took that water beautifully. It's not bleeding everywhere. So my watercolor cardstock really takes that water and ink really well and blends it absolutely beautifully. So if you haven't tried that watercolor cardstock and you're just using Stark White cardstock, I recommend trying this out. Stark White will get you by in a pinch too, especially. Like it takes water really nicely, but when you use this, there's like no comparison. It's like, it works way better when, especially when you're throwing a lot of water at it, doing a lot of coloring. It does a really great job. So I'm gonna go in and just gently heat set this, so we can keep moving on to the next step. And I like this Ranger heat tool whenever I'm heating like an ink or a paste or anything like that. It's not as concentrated as the embossing heat gun, so it kind of spreads the heat more evenly and just heats up inks and pastes really nicely without like boiling them to a crisp. And then we're gonna go in here and grab out this Santa sleigh image and also that sentiment that says Santa Claus is coming to town. We'll pull that guy out too. I like having the sentiment dies. I think that's really helpful. And then we'll go in here with our dies and we'll grab a little bit of mint tape, line everything up with a nice white border all the way around. Just like that. And then we'll go in, did I line that up? Yeah, there you go. You guys just saw all my hair there. My gray hairs in the back. Okay, and then we're gonna go in and tape those down. And then we'll go in with a little bit more tape and tape down the sentiment. So just line that up with a little bit of a white border all the way around and tape it down. Okay, so then whenever an image is small enough, I like to go in with my little Scout. This is just so great for cutting, and I like that it's really portable. It's got like a 3.5 inch opening, I think, 3.5 inch. And what I like about that so much is like, this image is pretty wide, and most other small die cutting machines on the market won't fit it in there. So that's what I love about the little Scout, is it fits quite a few images really nicely inside of there, and it still does such a great job at cutting because it still has the metal plates that are inside. So really amazing. Okay, so then let's go in and pull these guys out. I can't wait to show you just how well these cut out. And then we're gonna go in and pop this image out. And check out just how amazing this cut out. So inside of here, you also get to pop out these little areas in between. And I've got to tell you, the Spellbinders team is amazing when it comes to dies. So it cuts out like in between those, it cuts out in between the strings. Wherever they can, I always tell them like, please add little cutouts. So this makes it a lot more versatile for you because it's not just like you're cutting it around like you could do with the scissors. You're really getting into areas that you usually couldn't using these dies and saving a ton of your time as well. And then we're gonna go in here and that cuts out the image really nicely too, or sorry, the sentiment, and you get a really great look. Okay, so I'm I'm gonna pull this back in. You can already see those stars are already starting to turn clear with that really great iridescent sparkle. So I love that so much. And then let's go in with a little bit of foam tape. Oh yes, Christopher says the Scout is so versatile. Thank goodness for the wider slot. I agree. It really is. I think that sometimes those little die cutting machines can feel like a toy, but this one definitely doesn't. It's got just a great amount of heft to it because it's still got those great metal rollers that you really look for in a die cutting machine to be nice and sturdy. But I love that it's got that wider slot so you can still fit most of your stamped images right inside of there. All right. Yes, all the supplies today are listed and linked in the description box. So if you're looking for any of the links to the new products, those links help support me, so I really appreciate that. So thank you guys so much. And then let's peel off the backer tape. And we're gonna just pop this up on some foam tape right on the front and center of the card. So we're going to place this right down so he's flying right above the trees. I think that is such an adorable scene right there. So he pops up off the card nicely. And then let's also go in with a little bit of foam tape for this sentiment. Add just a little bit of that down. And there we go. Okay, yes, Cindy says, I appreciate that those dies cut so close. If I have to go back and use an X-Acto knife, then I don't need the die. I agree. I really agree with that. I talk to the team about that all the time just to make sure that you guys are getting the most versatility with these dies. Because yeah, if there's a lot of white space left over, it's not worth it to have the die. But I love that it cuts as many of those areas out as we can. So I love this so much. It's such an adorable card and a really great way to use that ho 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 stamp. Again, like I said, I kind of think you look at that stamp set and you're like, okay, there's a bunch of focal points, but how do I use them? So this really shows you can color them in if you want to really make it a great focal point like that. Or you could go in and like use them in the background. And like in this instance, we stamped it down tone on some colored green cardstock. And that creates a nice kind of background of trees right below it. But of course, these trees, you could color them in really detailed and have that be a focal point as well. So I love how versatile that set is. And you get to create some really great images and cards with it. So I love that so much. Okay, let's jump in now to the huggers. So for the huggers, I want to create a background. And to do that, I'm going to go in and actually, we're actually going to use the ho 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 set again, because this image, this snowflake image, is a really great one for background building. So let me show you how to use an image like this and create a whole background out of it. Because you might be like, oh, well, this is just a focal point, right? But you could use this for a background as well, which is awesome. And then once we're done creating the background, then we'll jump in with the hugger images and show you guys that set as well. So for this, I'm gonna go in using a little bit of VersaMark clear sticky ink. And I'm going to go in and ink this guy up. And I like to just start right at the center of the card. And I'm just going to stamp down the snowflakes. So place those down and stamp it out. Really great. And then I'm going to go in with my clear embossing powder, and I'm going to throw over some of that clear embossing powder right on top. Now I'm not going to heat emboss it yet. I'm just doing this so I can see where that stamped, because that clear sticky ink, you really can't see where it went. So by adding down the heat embossing powder, I don't know if you guys can see that, but I in person can see it a lot better then. So now we know where that stamped. So then we can go in and we can grab our image again. And now we're able to rotate the stamp. So if the largest image was right over here, I'm gonna rotate it so that some of the smaller images are facing towards it. And we're gonna kind of interlock that. And these interlock really well by the way that they were designed, because they're like a triangle like this, they really interlock kind of into each other really nicely. And it creates such a great background pattern. So instead of having to have a whole background stamp that just does this, you now have the focal image that you could use to create a background, which I think is awesome. But again, you could stamp these by themselves and then watercolor it in really beautifully and die cut it out and have that be a focal point too. But I just love them for backgrounds as well. I love that there's so much versatility in this set. This is like a Christmas release you really can't avoid. I think you guys have to have both of these sets. They're some of my favorites that I've been able to craft with recently. Okay. And again, sorry that I'm sniffly. I just got over being sick, so I apologize. But I'm glad that I was able to at least make it live and have my voice back for that, so that's great. Okay, and then let's go in, ink that up. And again, just keep rotating the stamp so that it looks different every time. Stamp it into each other. And then throw over the heat embossing powder again. And so you'll just repeat that until the whole background is covered, just like this. That looks amazing. And then you'll go in and heat emboss it. So I don't know if you can see it, but there is snowflakes all over this background. But I already prepared this right before the live, just so you guys didn't have to listen to me heat set the whole background this time. So we've got a background over here that is already done. And now we're gonna do some ink blending using this again. So again, we'll go in with our blending tools and we're going to blend out a background. So for this, I'm gonna start off with a little bit of purple at the bottom. I know that it's weird, but I love using purple in these kind of snowy backgrounds. So we'll go right in and add this purple color. And actually, let's add red to the bottom too. So we're gonna start off with this purple kind of in the middle here. And again, these Simon Hurley blending brushes are just incredible. And there is a deal that you can buy 12 of these for the price of 10. So definitely check that with that link down below. So you can get just as many as I have to have different color families, and you'll get them for the price of 10 of them, which is awesome. And then let's do a little bit of pink at the bottom too. So we'll use a little bit of Prom Queen. Tap it right down onto my blending brush, and then blend that right into the 100% juice color. And those blend together just beautifully. I love that. Oh no, not a fingerprint, come on. Okay, yeah, right there on my finger, that's the culprit. Okay, well hopefully we'll be able to cover that up with a different color. Let's start off with a little bit of Midnight Snack there then, because I think that'll be able to color that up. I was gonna do like a light blue there, but we're gonna blend out a little bit of Midnight Snack and hopefully that covers my fingerprints. Now you guys know, I get fingerprints on my cards too. Okay, it's not just you, so if you've struggled with that before, just know you're not alone. And we'll go in and blend that right into the purple. And yeah, I agree, it gives it kind of a moody feel to it. I love that purple color. And then let's go in with a little bit of Clear Skies to finish it off. And I'm going to wipe up all this ink so I don't get any more fingerprints, and so that we get a nice true color. And we're gonna blend out a little bit of that Clear Skies into Midnight Snack. Really beautifully. They blend together so smooth and seamless. And then we'll blend that up and we'll blend it out kind of just a little bit lighter all the way to the top. All right, that looks great. And yeah, it is such rich colors going on, right? I love that. Okay. So then let's go in and do some, or actually let's wipe this off first. So to wipe it off, all you need to do is just go in and bring in your rag here, and we're just going to wipe off the surface. And by wiping this off, you reveal those really bright white snowflakes, so any ink that got on top of those will be gone now, and now you have that really great resisted pattern. And I just love these snowflakes so much. They kind of connect with the one lines there, but it really creates such a great, elegant, and beautiful effect for this background. I'm obsessed with it. And if you want to, you can add a little bit more texture and kind of spray this down, but I think I'm gonna leave it nice and smooth like this. I think it looks just beautiful. So of course, for the snowman that we did, you're going to kind of add him down on a hill if you want to, but let me show you how to use the other huggers in the set because their bodies are cut off. So I wanna show you kind of how I intend to use them. Of course, they could be peeking out from a little piece on the bottom here, but let me show you a really fun way, another way to use them. So let's see, I think I wanna use, should I use the reindeer or should I use the penguin? Maybe I'll use the penguin today. I'll use this little guy. And I wanted to show you just how easy this is. So one thing that I love about these huggers, and even the hugger set in the past too, is just how easy these images are to color because they've got kind of solid areas in them too. Like the other ones are a little bit more outlines that you can actually watercolor in, but I love this penguin especially. Because if you're doing quick and easy Christmas cards, you just stamp it in black and you're pretty much done, which is awesome. So let's go in here with a little bit of our black ink. Let's see, what did I put in? This is the Black Widow Stellar ink. I love it so much. And I haven't used this penguin yet, so let me just kind of wipe this stamp. It's a really solid stamp. So sometimes there's like oils and stuff from the manufacturing process, so let me just make sure any of those are off before we stamp it. And then we'll go in and just lightly tap down all over the stamp. Really light taps are gonna get it nicely covered with ink. That looks great. And then let's stamp it right down onto our card. Give it a second to transfer. And there we go. Oh my gosh. Look at how beautiful that's stamped. Wowza. That is the Black Widow ink. So when I tell you guys, Black Widow ink is one of my favorites. That new Stellar ink, I'm telling you, that foam pad with that ink formula, it just stamps so crisp. And some people ask, like, does the Stellar ink smooth out over time, or will it be smooth just right when it stamps? You can tell that it's very smooth right when it stamps. That's one thing we love about my ink formula. It's smooth right out the get-go, so you don't have to like wonder if it's gonna smooth out more. And it also is pretty non-staining. The only ink that stains a little bit is just the black, but you can see it just turns a really light gray color. It's not super dark jet black staining. So now I'm gonna go in and just make sure this is nice and heat set. It dries pretty quickly, but because it's so solid, I just wanna heat set it. And then we're gonna go in and show you just how easy this is to color. So of course, you could just leave it as is, right? But I wanna go in and just add a little bit of orange to his stomach. So I'm literally going in with whatever is left over on my blending brush, and I'm just gonna create this little orange stomach. Ah, how cute is that? I love it. I'm obsessed. Okay. And then for the beak, we're gonna go in and use, let me show you, this little tiny blending tool. These guys are from Ranger. They make these little tiny detail, little blending sponges. And I'm gonna go in here with that little blending sponge and a little bit of guppy and just tap it right in the center. So if you guys are making Christmas cards, this might be the easiest guy ever to make a Christmas card with. So simple, and you get such a great effect with that. So let's stamp down a sentiment too, because I want to show you guys how we're going to use this. So let's go in with a piece of colored cardstock. I'm going to bring in this red color because I like that. And let's bring in one of the sentiments. So I'm going to do, should we do You're Flippin' Awesome? I think that's so fun. Yeah, let's do You're Flippin' Awesome. Oh my gosh, yeah, Pam said you could stack those huggers on top of each other on a little slimline card. That would be so adorable. I agree. Them like peeking out over each other's heads would be really cute. Okay, and to do this, instead of using Black Widow, one thing I've loved doing recently is using a coordinating ink color that's like tone on tone and stamping it on top of each other. So I'm gonna use a little bit of Bee Sting to stamp this guy down. Ink that up. Really light taps again are what's going to ink this really nicely. And then you can go on in and stamp it right down onto our card. So give it a good stamped impression. There we go. We got it nice and stamped down. Now with some colored cardstocks, it takes a little minute for this to sink in, so I'm just gonna heat set this again. Just to make sure it's perfect, and then we'll worry about that sentiment in just a second here, okay? So we wanna cut out this penguin. So, sorry, my brain's all over the place. I'm like kind of ADHD right now. I'm like jumping from one thing to another, but this is how I create. So you guys are really getting a view into how it looks. So we're gonna go in here, grab a little bit of mint tape for our penguin. And place this right down. And if we want to, I just like to go in. We can save this cardstock for later. And we'll go in and cut this right out. So we'll bring in our little Platinum Black Scout die cutting machine from me and Spellbinders. And look, even this quite large images fits in there, which is awesome. Die cut this out so easily. I know, yeah. Carrie says, I love these so much. They're adorable. I do too. They are just some of the cutest Christmas images I've ever created. I was like, I need to recreate that hugger set, but for different holidays. And I just think this guy is the cutest ever for Christmas. Like, how adorable is that? Now, if you want to take it even a step further, let's go back in with Phoenix Feather. I'm telling you guys, I'm obsessed with this stuff. And we're gonna go in and just grab a little tiny bit on my finger, just like this. Grab it, and just start tapping it on to his little tummy. And that's gonna add this gorgeous, just glittery effect. If you aren't using your Astro Paste or you find them kind of hard to use, this is one of my favorite ways to use them. Of course, backgrounds and stuff are so easy, but sometimes people get worried about that, kind of that it's messy. So like this is one really great way to use them. That's so simple, is just lightly tapping them onto a project, because you don't really see the glitter a ton until you tilt it in the light, and then you're like, whoa, it is amazing. Okay. So then we'll go in and we are going to wipe off our surface. And let's kind of put all this together now. So let's trim this down. So I'm gonna go in and grab one of my top folding card bases. Again, these are pre-cut and folded, the Stark White cardstock. I love that we do them pre-cut now. It just makes things so easy, because all you need to do is just fold them down and crease them, and they're all good and ready for you to go. So let's trim this down for a little bit of a border. Just a little border on either side. That should be good. I love all of the suggestions in the comments. You guys are recommending everything you want to see in this hugger style, which I think is so fun. I'm definitely taking notes. So you might see some more huggers in the future. I just think they're so fun and playful. So we'll go in and add this right down. But of course, whenever we make a stamp set like this, this is all on you guys, okay? So if you like this hugger set, you're definitely gonna wanna get it, because that tells us that we're able to make more like it in the future. Okay, so that little penguin, he's kind of floating in the sky. So if you want to, you can add him to the bottom of the card, and that makes an adorable place for the hugger. You could also put like a strip of cardstock down here and make him popping out of it, like I did with the snowman, kind of. But another way to do it is stamp down a sentiment on a strip of cardstock, just like this. And then we're gonna go in and just trim it down. So I like to trim it with a paper trimmer, just so that I know that it's gonna be nice and straight. So really easy to do, check that out. Super simple. And then let's go in and trim down one more. So it's a little less than ½ inch. Actually, let's just go like this. This is how I do it. I don't measure things, I'm not professional around here. I like to just go in and hold it up and be like, okay, that's even. All right, so now we have these strips, right? So what we're gonna do is go in with our Spring Assist scissors. I'm gonna just trim the other edge of this nice and straight. And then once that's done, we're gonna go in with this piece and trim it in half, just like that. And then we'll line these two halves up, make sure they're nice and even. And then we'll go in, okay, so two pieces on top of each other. We're gonna go in and trim it down into the center. And then we're gonna go in and trim it down in from each side, leading to the center there. So just like that. And then one more on the other side. And that creates this really great fishtail banner. So when you pull these guys out, perfect it a little bit, and you get this really great banner look. Do you guys see that? Hopefully you're able to see it there. Okay, then all you need to do is grab a little bit of tape runner. You can tape the banner right onto this little guy. Just like that. Let me center it a little bit better. Okay, So it looks something like that. Just like that. So this is how I love to use these guys, because you can already see it makes a much better grounding place for this. And then we can go in with our foam tape and cut a little bit of it out and adhere it right down. So this creates a really great kind of 3D banner for him to be sitting on then. Let's pop him up. All right. And then peel these guys off. You guys are probably like, whoa, what is going on? I promise it'll all come together in just 1 second. Okay, peel these guys off. And then here's what I do, okay? I take this banner and I go right in and place it down onto it. So there we go. And then on the other side, again, grab that banner, line it up with the other side so that it's equal, and place it right down. That creates like these little banner edges, and those are now lower than the rest of the banner. So all we need to do now, that they're all attached like this, you got that 3D look to it now, and then we'll add this right down to the center of our card. How cute is that? Finishes it off really beautifully. So that is how I create those 3D banners. It's really as simple as just cutting a strip of cardstock, cutting 2 other strips from that, and then cutting in, and you get little fishtail banners on the edge. I absolutely love that look to create those little banners, and that's what I really love to do to make these huggers kind of stand out on the card. So create a really fun background out of any of the images. So here I used those ho 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 snowflake images. And then I'm going to like go in and stamp those out and create this really cool look to create a background. And then you can use any of the focal points on top. I love this set so much. I think that adding that dimension in the banner is amazing, and it's a really simple way to pull this set together. But like, I would love using any of these images with some of our past background stamps or some of our embossing folders to give some really great texture and then add down the image on top. And I just really think these create like the most adorable Christmas cards. I can't wait to send this out to a friend this holiday season. And this one isn't really a Christmas card because it just says you're flipping awesome, but I think that's so fun to send out like during winter, or if someone has a winter birthday too, this can be a really fun card for them. So super fun. We created 2 really adorable cards in today's live stream, really showing how to use the new Ho 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 stamp and the really awesome Christmas Hugs stamp set. Again, I hope you guys really enjoyed today's video. Thank you for all your well wishes. I hope that I recover even more from being sick, but it's been really fun being able to sit here and craft along with these sets with you guys. Like I said, they're some of my favorite Christmas sets. Now, all of these products that I used in today's video, as well as these new Christmas stamp and die sets, are available right now. I have links down below, so you can go and use those links to go shopping. Using the links helps support me, so I really appreciate it. And I can't wait to see what you guys create with these brand new holiday stamp sets. Now, like I said, these are a part of a larger holiday release. We're still waiting for some of those products to be shipped into us, but we wanted these to come out as soon as possible so you guys can start creating with them. But definitely over the next couple of weeks, I'll be going live with even more Christmas supplies coming soon. Some of those even coordinate so well with these images, so I can't wait to share all of that with you guys very soon. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you soon for another card making and crafting video. Have a great day, guys. Bye.